Austin Rouse with Inner Gamer, and I'm here with Tony. Tony, please introduce yourself for us.
I'm Tony Madrona. I'm the creative director for GREYBOX on Dreadnought.
Cool. Tell us about this game. It looks freaking amazing. You have the biggest booth here at PAX. You must be the shit.
I mean, I'm not going to say no to that because that's I don't get that many compliments in my life. But I definitely think Dreadnought's an awesome game. It's basically a 5v5 class-based spaceship action kind of game where you have really highly customizable spaceships where you can change not only the vanity and the look, but actually how it plays out, abilities and weapons. You can totally change it and customize it to your liking. So when you go on the battlefield with your team, you kind of set up a plan of like, you go sniper, I go support, you go heavy, you do dreadnought. And basically you come up with your own strategies, go out on the battlefield, fight with 5 other guys, in kind of more of arena-based combat. It's really fast, really fun, really dynamic. Every time you die, you can come back and change classes. So the landscape's always changing. It's really, really fun.
So to my knowledge, there's not really a game out that's really like this I can think of off the top of my head.
No, I mean...
So what gave you guys inspiration to make this? And like, what are the games that really like, I like that, let's put them all together and make this like...
Well, it was kind of a combination of a fantasy that hadn't been fulfilled yet. So like you have, a lot of sci-fi kind of that you've seen out there, whether it's Battlestar, Star Wars, Star Trek, whatever. And like you see those big epic spaceship battles, but you never ever play them. You can never be the giant ship. You can kind of just be maybe the small fighter or something like that. So we wanted to give that feeling of bringing the entire giant like spaceship combat battle, epic battles into the game. So that was a huge part of it. We obviously looked at like, because it has elements of kind of first-person shooter stuff. So you have class-based stuff. So our classes are kind of very synonymous with like what you would think is in a generic kind of first-person shooter. But because it's spaceships and the scale is so massively different, and it's not just about gun size or gun length, you can get really crazy to where you have big epic dreadnoughts that feel like lumbering nautical ships. You get that nautical combat where you're slow, calculated, and kind of focused. And you have like more fighter kind of style, like aerial combat with the smaller ships. So it's really diverse, it's really fun. We took a lot of inspiration from like, a lot of first-person shooters, whether it's Team Fortress and kind of how they're very unique, different classes. They're very iconic as well. But really, it is a hybrid, and that's what makes it kind of really interesting. There's not any game that's necessarily like this. So right now, we're in alpha, closed alpha, and we're exploring the game and learning about the game and seeing how people not only take to it, but even how classes act, when you have this kind of arena.
Cool. Well, tell me, so you guys are in alpha. What's future development look like right now? How close are we to launch? Because this game, we got to play it moments ago, and it's actually pretty awesome. Yeah. I see myself getting addicted. It's all those little parts you put together. Yeah.
So right now, we're in closed alpha. The things that we're working on are progression, UI, the UX, the overall kind of quality of life stuff. Because we want to make sure that we can keep players long term. It's really not about like getting them up front, trying to hit them up with all sorts of stuff. We want players to stick with us because we feel like the game has a really bright future and a lot of ways that it can organically grow. Depending on how our closed alpha goes, it'll basically dictate everything else because we definitely feel like we have something special, but we want to make sure that we introduce it appropriately and that we figured out a lot of the kinks in terms of like exposing it to people so they don't get overwhelmed and they also get the depth that's there but can have fun with it immediately.
Yeah. Cool. I guess, what have you learned here from PAX? Like, what have you taken away from everyone playing, getting their hands on it?
I think, for me, it's the expectations that they had going in and what the expectations they have going out. So a lot of people think, well, maybe it's like this, maybe it's like that. Going out of it, I think the things that I've heard from people are, wow, that was like really fun and really fast. They really like how different the ships are. They have a lot of questions about like, so what other stuff are you doing? What are you going to add? Because we're really looking at it as almost like a foundation that you can kind of build on and grow onto. And so it's really exciting for us to see that fans are getting very excited about the possibilities. Like, what about, an Imperial ship, like a huge, huge class, things like that. And the thing that we like is that it sparks that imagination in people, and I think it really grabs them. So we're really learning exactly like what are people focusing on, what are people liking. Ultimately, like it plays really well, and it's really fun to just jump in and have fun. We really want to make sure that we start honing our alpha so that people get it over time, like are slowly introduced to it. Because right now it's like, hey, here's everything, just have a ball, which is fun too, but sometimes you don't know an ability or you don't know a weapon. And when you spend time with it, I think you really start to gain an appreciation of like its value in gameplay. And I think that's what I'm really looking forward to, because we've been getting really positive feedback here, and we just want a lot of feedback in our alpha from our players, because we want to make our game with them.
So this is a free-to-play game, right?
Free to play.
Why go this route opposed to just $50, $60 release?
Well, I think that a lot of the hey, set it and forget it kind of games, you just launch them and that's it. They don't have in mind from the get-go the idea that they want to build an ecosystem, an environment with players that's going to be like long-term relationship, right? And for a developer, that basically means you make your best guess and you hope that it just works, right? But here we have the opportunity to like try stuff, see how people react to it, see the numbers of what people are doing, who's winning, what's the KDAs, right? And actually refine and improve and grow. So we wanted to have a long-term relationship where we're starting to kind of have a back and forth, and we can grow this game in all sorts of different directions. That's really hard to do if you're just kind of releasing one at a time. And it means that just like in game development, the less iteration you do, the less you learn about what your game is, the less that you can take that knowledge back into it. Here, we're trying to set up an ecosystem where we learn about the game, have time to actually put it back in, and see the reaction so we can kind of learn and grow with players. That's the main reason why we're doing free-to-play, and we feel like instead of trying to hit you up with a paywall up front or do anything crazy like that, we want you to just stick around, because if you are here long enough, you'll see the value and you'll, I think, appreciate what we're doing and hit us back, I
gotta shake your hand for that, my friend. That is awesome. I wish more AAA titles would do that instead of charging us out the ass, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I totally got you. So it's a big risk, but we think it's the right thing to do.
All right, tell me about the classes and how they all work together and can be make that kind of weird puzzle put together.
Sure. So we've got 5 different classes. We've got Corvettes, which are basically our scout class. Really fast, guns in front. You're doing runs instead of kind of shooting 360 all over the place. Super nimble, super fast, really, really hard to hit. We've got our artillery cruisers, which are basically our snipers. And those hit hard and heavy from far away. They're really, really good for taking out big targets like dreadnoughts. Really, really tough to hit corvettes though, right? We've got our tactical cruisers, which are basically our support class. And those guys span the gamut from being, healers to almost like tanky damage dealers that can like go into a fight and drop health or drop cloak and support in a different way, right? We've got our dreadnoughts, which are heaviest of the heavy. Big, gigantic ships that do a ton of damage. They have got guns everywhere, so you can kind of shoot 360. And we have our destroyer class, which is basically our all-rounder. Still leans kind of heavy, but they have a lot of really cool, interesting features like a plasma ram that you can like set off and just like straight up ram into people. Really high risk, but really high reward. And depending on what you pick, right? Like let's say you do 3 snipers, 2 dreadnoughts. So dreadnoughts are in front trying to cover those guys, right? Snipers are kind of can duck behind them and attack the other team. The other team has to respond to that. So maybe they do corvettes that can kind of like edge out both of those guys. So it's all about kind of that combination of what do they have? What are we bringing? What's our plan? And every time you die, you can change classes so you can adapt immediately to what the enemy's doing, or if you got killed by something, you're like, I know how to take you out. So it's really, really fun, really, really dynamic. And our classes have, those main classes and light, medium versions, lightly, medium, and heavy versions for each one of those. So right now we have 15 ships in total, but those are only going to grow. So we're going to keep exploring, find new types of ships, new subclasses, things like that. But for right now, that's kind of the all-rounder kind of overview.
Well, quickly, tell me about why these matches are so quick. For being a game that I feel like would be way longer in general to play. I mean, even just moving is really, really slow. So go.
So there's a really interesting, I guess, like a really interesting thing that occurs when you first watch. You're like, oh, like a Dreadnought moves really slow. It must be a slow game. But actually, you've got things like energy management where you can like put your energy to shields, to weapons, to thrusters. You have abilities. You've got your main weapons. You've got, you know, everybody else to look out for. So even though you have time to think about stuff, there's a lot of things to think about. So we kind of wanted to make sure that, you know, people had time to have fun with it, but there was also not just super long and kind of drawn out. So the matches are about 15 minutes, and it's because we want players to have fun, try stuff out, learn it, not be punished for trying new things out. Instead, learn, try, have fun. Like I said, this is one of the only games that I've experienced where I have fun dying. Like, I love dying in this game because it means I'm going to come right back at you and try this and try that. So instead of having to spend an hour playing a game and figuring out what you did wrong and what happened, you can play a 15-minute match where you died multiple times, but every time you learn, whether it's about your ship, your class, your team configuration, how to counter them. And so that's why I think even though the match is short, it does feel like there's a lot of stuff going on. There's also time to kind of figure out how do you want to play. Do you want to be slow, methodical, deliberate? Dreadnought. Do you want to be more twitchy, crazy fast, action-paced? Play a Corvette. So it's all about variety. And we want to give that variety to players, and we want to have a game where if somebody likes this style versus that style, they can play a game together. So it's perfect for friends, and it's even more fun when you start working together to come up with strategies.
Yeah, I think that's all I got for you. I mean, thank you for coming out, taking your time out, and this game looks amazing. I can't wait to actually get my hands on it for real. And
sure. If you want to check it out, go to playdreadnought.com. You can sign up right now, and we have alpha tests going, you know, this month, next month. So they'll only increase in frequency and duration. So if you don't get it now, you will eventually be kind of picked up.
Hey, we're at PAX, guys. The Inner Gamer is at PAX South.
We're here on day 2 of PAX South, and it's about to get real.
So far, I'm tired, hungover, and full of coffee, and it feels good.
Do you really? Can you give me a hug?
That's true. Everything's bigger in Texas, right?